Well, we're back. Another episode of the All In Show here on the Clemson Voice of College Football YouTube channel. As always, I am your host, Jordan Bowman. I got my co-host, Tiger Paul Craven, tonight. Of course, this show is presented to you by the good folks over at FanDuel. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We got a jam-packed show. We got a special guest for y'all tonight. None other than Grayson Mann from Tigernet. Really excited. If those of you that are longtime listeners, longtime viewers of the show, know that Grayson is a longtime friend of ours and has been on the show before, and it was overdue to get him back, especially with fall camp rolling around. So I'm really excited to get this one going. As always, if you haven't, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're sharing these lives, because that is the best way for us to get our audience out there and grow our audience. And it's free, doesn't cost you a dime. So it would be greatly appreciated. Those of you that have already joined the show, let me give a quick shout out to the comments section. We already got Arthur Moss, one of our awesome channel members. He says, "Good evening, guys." Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much. And of course, John Sarian, another channel member, our resident moderator, does a great job. Is always consistent, more consistent than us in our start time. So I appreciate John. He's an OG for sure. Was 8 a.m. a psych? I'm not. Did we schedule it for 8 a.m. at one point? We might have. I don't know. But yeah, definitely don't want to go at 8 a.m. I just flew in from Vegas yesterday, so I'm good on that. We also got Wet Socks. Probably top 5 name on the YouTube space. I love his username. Of course, one of our regulars. Good to see you, brother. And of course, Air Mike, another one of our channel members, popping in as well. Good to see you, buddy. But I don't want to waste any further time. Let me bring on my co-host, Tiger Paul Craven. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing tonight, man?
Doing pretty good.
It's gonna be a great show. I think maybe I scheduled it for 8 a.m. When I originally scheduled the live.
Yeah,
that's probably my bad. But I mean, you guys know we ain't going at 8 a.m. Come on, we can barely make it at 8 p.m. You already know.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
But yeah,
man.
Shout out to John for catching that. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no,
that's my bad. I scheduled the show. So
yeah, no. The day we start doing 8 a.m. lives is the day. The South.
I guess maybe that means we're doing it for a living at that point.
Yeah. Which, I wouldn't be upset.
I wouldn't be mad at it.
No,
I wouldn't be mad at it.
All right. Let me see. Anybody else that I didn't give a quick shout out to? Okay, I think I've hit everybody in the comment section. So don't want to waste any further time. Got to introduce our very, very special guest, a guy that has been grinding in the Clemson media space for a few years now. I formerly worked with Larry Williams over at Tiger Illustrated. Now is with the illustrious David Hood at Tigernet. Does a phenomenal job. Just always excited to have him on the show. Has great insights in the world of Clemson football, whether it's on the field stuff, recruiting, you name it. Let me introduce you guys to our special guest, Grayson Mann, Tigernet. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for the kind words. It's exciting to be on here once again. It feels very timely with the start of fall camp here very soon.
Absolutely, man. I mean, there was nobody else I wanted to bring on with this time, approaching, just with your foothold in the program and just kind of your pulse, your finger on the pulse of the program. It just felt like a good time to get you on. I want to kind of start it off because you follow recruiting, keep up with it. It's always something on the minds of Clemson football fans, especially in the offseason. We cover recruiting a decent bit on this show as well, but we don't have the connections you do. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, just obviously the 2027 class for Clemson has been a pretty strong outing for this coaching staff and the recruiting staff. But already we're kind of looking ahead to 2028, and obviously the key position that everybody always has on their mind each and every cycle is, of course, quarterback, especially at a program at Clemson. And it seems like one of those dominoes might be falling here pretty soon. Four-star quarterback Trace Hawkins is set to announce his commitment. A guy that has camped at Clemson a good bit, and has the program. Dabo Swinney and Taj Boyd have really sought after. He's set to announce. I believe he has a top 6 that includes schools like LSU, Vanderbilt, Duke. There seems to be a lot of momentum with the Tigers right now. I don't know. What do you think about this? One, what do you think about the player? And then also, how do you feel about Clemson's chances as his decision approaches?
Yeah, it's July has almost become synonymous with quarterback commitments in the last 2 years, where 2 years ago you had Tate Reynolds commit in July, Kyron Hughley, excuse me, commits close to July 4th last year. And now you have this announcement coming up in just 2 days. And I'm a fan of Hawkins tape. It's one of those players that I think if I had to do the one word game, it would probably be poise. When you turn on the tape and evaluate him, it's someone that stands in the pocket, very tall and just timely on the throws, very deliverable, and someone that can be a little bit of an artist outside the pocket as well. So you don't have somebody that's a statue. I don't think that type of quarterback really exists anymore. It feels like you have to make plays with your legs if you're going to survive in this modern era of football, and Hawkins is certainly capable of that, but very accurate thrower of the football as well. So Clemson, should things go out the way I expected, I think we'll be having some good news for Tiger fans on Thursday night.
Yeah, and I watch his tape, and he's not really reminiscent of the maybe the quarterbacks that Clemson has landed in the last couple of cycles. Obviously, Kyron Hughley and Tate Reynolds being a little bit more physical specimens in terms of athleticism and traits and things like that. But Trace is a guy that I think especially reminds you a lot about a little bit about Taj Boyd as far as the arm talent. He can put the ball pretty much anywhere on the field. He's not small by any means, and especially when you talk about in contrast to the other quarterback offer for the 28 class in Trey Wright, who obviously is shorter stature. Obviously, the statistical profile is pretty, stands out a lot. But I don't know, when you look at the two, like, do you think Clemson is going in the right direction? I don't know if that's something you feel like commenting on. But as far as like prospects go, do you feel like one would be more preferable to the other, or do you feel like this is I think Clemson is happy with either one of them?
Yeah, I think when you have it framed like it was for Clemson when they offered just the two in Trey or Trace, it comes down to we like you both, and it's just a matter of who's going to make that first announcement between the two. And whether you agree with that style or not is up for debate. And I think this is a chance for Chad Morris, who this is maybe his first real cycle of evaluation where Kyrie had already been committed, and that was more of him just signing off on the quarterback that was already there. So this is a Chad Morris choice. I think that's important to note in this evaluation. So I think the idea of we know whether Clemson made the right choice or not. I mean, these kids still have 2 years left of high school football. So Trace or Trey could grow another inch or two. They could develop into their bodies more. I mean, these kids are 16 or maybe even 15 in that sense there. So I don't like to cast projections in that sense of, oh, Clemson made a poor decision here, especially when we haven't really seen it. Yeah, you may not be as wowed as the physical gifts, maybe as a Hughley or a Tate Reynolds to that extent. But I would say that we'll get our answer, and I think the staff's pretty confident in their evaluation and their choice. So they like two of them. They gave those two committable offers, and it came down to, it sounds like Hawkins, who's going to make that decision in a few days. And whether Trey Wright is still in Clemson's plans or not, I would be a little shocked if he was, just with the nature of what Clemson's done in the last cycle. So we'll see. But as far as, man, they really screwed it up here, I don't really buy into that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I've been pleased with just the approach at quarterback. The last couple of cycles, I feel like they've done a good job at putting feelers out there and getting the guys they want on campus early. They've just consistently done a pretty good job. Obviously, the last a couple cycles ago with it kind of reminds you of Tate Reynolds and oh goodness, with the kid from Florida that everybody was going crazy about. Where did he end up going? It was Tate Reynolds or please help me out.
I could pull up the offer list here in a second.
Yeah, because I'm blanking on his name. I want to say it's another C name, and I think he ended. I don't remember where he ended up.
Are you talking about quarterback in Tate's class?
Yeah, in Tate's class, he was
the kids that they offered him, Brock, and Teddy Gerard. It was of North Cobb, so no Florida quarterback in that cycle.
Okay, so who am I? Oh no, because he reclassified. That's what it. Because they both
might have been for 25. I don't know.
Yeah, so because I believe he reclassified and he was the other quarterback that had camped, and they came away more impressed with Tate, and they ended up offering him. But anyway, it'll come to me eventually. I'm gonna do some digging when we get an opportunity. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, and obviously the feelers and the momentum seems to be with the Tigers right now as he nears a decision. It's always good to get that quarterback in early, especially as they're always your biggest recruiters. When you've looked at the last few cycles, obviously Kyron Hewley has done a great job in the 2027 class of really bringing this group together. But Tate Reynolds was a phenomenal recruiter in the previous class. It's extremely important to get guys especially guys that you feel like other guys will want to play with in your class early on, and then kind of be the centerpiece. So feeling pretty good about where Clemson sits in that one, but wanted to get a little bit of recruiting note in there. I didn't want to just talk about the team, but yeah, TBC, when you look at, have you gotten a chance to look at Trace's tape? Because I think that while he's not as physically gifted as the last couple of takes at quarterback, I still feel pretty good that this is a guy that you feel like will be able to slot in this offense and be able to put the ball in the spots that are needed, especially in an offense that obviously the quarterback run is still going to be important, and he's not an immobile quarterback, but you get the first and foremost, you got to be accurate. You got to be able to place the ball at all levels of the field, and he definitely can do that when you watch him throw the football.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he can make all the throws. And I mean, look, at this point in time, I think Grayson made a good point. These guys still got 2 years of high school football left. Does the tape wow you right now? No, not necessarily. But is that a bad thing? No. I mean, you got a new offensive coordinator and Chad Morris coming in. He obviously saw both of these guys in camp, and obviously he saw enough that he was willing to make these two offers. And how Clemson's kind of done it is how you mentioned, Grayson, is they're going to go kind of with a 2 quarterback system, and whoever commits first, hey, that's the guy. And we're okay with either one. Seems like in this situation, it's going to be Hawkins. I think it's great for the 2028 class to get that corner piece early, right? And that's kind of been the trend, as you mentioned. July's been the month of quarterbacks for the past couple cycles now for the Clemson Tigers. So I think it's good in that sense. Does his tape wow me right now? No, not necessarily, but I think he has all the physical tools to be a good quarterback in this Clemson system. And as I already mentioned, he's still got 2 years of high school football to develop. So this guy's not going to look the same as he looks right now when it comes time to put that don that Clemson paw on his helmet and go out there and do it at Clemson. So I think it's a great get. I got no issues with it. I trust the coaching staff. They got an up close and personal basically job interview with him at camp. they saw enough. So I'm ready to roll the dice with him. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brady Hart, I just looked it up. I was like, I knew I was like, God, there was a guy that early on there was momentum for Clemson, and he ended up at A&M. I was like, I couldn't think of where he ended up. That's who I was thinking of. God, that was gonna kill me. I had to figure it out for myself. But yeah, didn't want to spend the whole time talking about recruiting, but I as we get closer and closer to fall camp, especially with the quarterback discussion, when you look at this quarterback race, I guess you can say between Tate Reynolds and obviously in the presumed starter and Christopher Vizina, as we head into fall camp, are there any vibes around the program that feel like this one is, decided or could be in doubt as we get closer and closer to that opener against LSU? What are your kind of thoughts as we approach that that fateful day?
That fateful day indeed. This is a unique fall camp, guys. This is my 5th one that I've had the opportunity to come and cover, and this is the first quarterback battle that I'll be getting a chance to watch here. It's pretty crazy just to say that in its own, but 22, you had DJ, you had Cade for 3 years, and then now you have this question that's loomed over since the spring where Sweeney never closed the door on Vizina being the guy that he's in first place, but this race is far from over. And so for me, when I look at how this is going to develop and unfold, it is the story of camp, and it really can't be anything else, just because we'll find out, I think, pretty soon who will be that quarterback, especially with the 2 scrimmages that Clemson will have. But if I had to put money on a starter right now, and obviously not gonna do that for sure, but I would say that it's probably the safe bet that Vizina is your guy week 1. But I think the more fascinating discussion is, when does Tate Reynolds take over? I think it's a matter of when, guys. I really do. I think that this is a kid that the staff has watched over the summer. They really like his ceiling as compared to Vizina. And this isn't to knock CV in any way. He has done exactly what's been asked of him. But it's just that bar is being reached, and there's nothing really beyond that where a Tate Reynolds paired with that physical gift that he has. We talked about physical traits earlier, and Reynolds has all of them, whether it's with his arm, with his legs, the progression that he made in high school. I think what concerns a lot of Clemson fans is that he didn't have that senior season of football. So there is that question mark of, okay, this is live football for the first time in 2 years. And it's not some kid who got at a pre-cal in Arizona. It's 110,000 people at LSU. That would be that first game experience per se. So I would imagine that it's going to be a tight race. I think Reynolds is going to do a lot to push him enough to warrant a start down the road. But I do think Vizina's your guy going into the opener.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely hedge my bets on Vizina starting week 1, obviously because of the familiarity with the program, obviously because Dabo does tend to lean more with the experience, especially in big game 1 openers. We've seen that against Georgia. We've seen that several times with Dabo Swinney. So it would surprise me if Chris Vizina was not the week 1 starter. But let me ask you this, Grayson, because I'm interested to hear your kind of take on this. Because in the offseason, a lot of Clemson fans, let's just be honest, we thought Dabo Swinney should have hit the portal, which he did, but we thought he should have hit it for a quarterback, potentially, to either start or at least push Chris Vizina for that starting position, if not overall win the starting position. There was a lot of Clemson fans out there with that stance. And I think a lot of reasons were, I don't think a lot of people thought that Tate Reynolds would come in and immediately start pushing or even getting close to pushing for that starting position, partly because what you already mentioned of him being, missing his entire senior season. I mean, the guy has not played football in quite some time just due to all of his injuries that he had, unfortunately, in his senior season of high school that kind of robbed him of that. So going in, I personally didn't think that Tate Reynolds was going to be a viable option. I thought he would need a little bit of development, especially missing that senior year. I think that's a pivotal year, particularly at the quarterback position for these high school players. Do you think the coaching staff expected him to come in and push Chris Vezina as much as he has? What's your kind of take on what I would call a surprise of Tate Reynolds coming in and really looking like he's ready to compete and possibly win that starting position at some point?
Yeah, it was interesting in January where I think we were all focused on the Luke Farrelly drama, and the thing that Sweeney had said was that they believed they had the guys in the quarterback room where they didn't need to go get an outside piece. And I can agree with Sweeney's logic to an extent where in his mind, he thinks he has a sure thing in Reynolds. Even without the senior tape, they believed he could be someone that could come in. And I think externally, like you said, that it was maybe a shock to hear that Vezina hadn't taken the job fully and that Reynolds has the opportunity to go out there here in just a few short days and earn the right to start, as Sweeney likes to put it, against LSU. That is very much a possibility. So I would say externally might have been a shock to Clemson fans, but internally, I think the biggest endorsement of a Reynolds or a Vezina was shown by this staff by not taking a portal quarterback. And I understand the frustration to the extent because you have, when you boil down to it, one combined start between 5 guys in that room. And that is a scary thing, going from a guy in Cade Klubnik who, yeah, sure, he has his faults, but experienced for sure. And then you go to this room where you just have a lot of question marks, even with the start that Vezina had last fall where he took over in that SMU game. So I can agree with the logic, but I also can acknowledge that, yeah, you might have wanted to take an Ashton Daniels. You might have wanted to take a senior quarterback that isn't necessarily maybe someone that will start but could push and at least has a few games under his belt that he can go out there if he ends up winning the job. So it was, to me, when January, when he said that they weren't taking a portal quarterback and had no intention to do so even at the beginning, I thought, okay, we really need to pay attention to this quarterback battle because this Tate Reynolds kid might be a lot better than people think if this staff is that confident. So I do think that was the endorsement in the beginning, guys. And so, yeah, I understood why fans were frustrated. But based off of what Sweeney had said in January, I was sort of gearing up for oh man, Reynolds could start week 1. This is a possibility.
Yeah, and I think it's always important to remember, talking about this battle is that, I mean, Christopher Vezina is not an untalented quarterback. This was not some late take Clemson had missed on all their top guys and in the 2023 cycle, and they were like, okay, let's go and take a shot on this kid that doesn't have any offers. No, this was a top 100 player that was sought after by the top programs in the country. Like, the guy isn't untalented. He can throw the football, and in his one start, he showed some promise. He showed some ability. I was there in person. I mean, the some of the balls he threw. I mean, obviously it took him some time to get into the game. Of course, it's his first start, but he really put on some quality tape, especially towards the back half of that game. So you've seen a glimpse, while not a long glimpse, and obviously not prolonged, and you didn't get to see it again. And some of his other appearances weren't as impressive, but the guy doesn't lack the ability. If things go right and if he is operating at the best of his ability, I have no doubt that he can work and he can be a successful quarterback. Obviously, just the question is, as you mentioned, Grayson, it's the ceiling, and when you're a program like Clemson that's coming off of a 7-6 season and a lot of things that are a lot of pressures and a lot of outside noise that's pushing down on you, and a lot of expectation to kind of right the ship, obviously not win the national championship. That's I don't think that's in the cards for this team, but getting a sense that the program is heading back in the right direction. Sometimes you got to take a swing for the fences a little bit, and I think that feels like what the staff is doing. They're kind of taking a leap of faith here with this. It's like, okay, either CV works out and he's great, or we're going all in on Tate and obviously the ceiling that he could potentially bring to this offense. And understand why, like you said, I understand the logic, but obviously other programs are also making moves, not in the portal, not just to bring in huge, 5-star multimillionaire type players that will, be instant impact difference makers, but also you're bringing in guys that will, can raise the floor, give you some buffer. Because what if neither one of them is any good?
That's trouble. I mean, you look at Oregon's quarterback room, their backup's Dylan Raiola, and that kid ain't half bad. So it's sort of the two polar opposites, where Dante Morris probably would have been drafted in the top 5 this spring in the NFL, and I just don't think he wanted to go to the Jets, and then he got a nice paycheck to go back to Oregon.
Shout out Cade Klubnik.
Shout out to Cade Klubnik, man. Championships were brought to New York because of Cade Klubnik. Never forget
He could start an NFL game this season.
I think he's going to. I think
it's not far fetched at all. Like, if you look at their quarterback room, Cade Klubnik might be the best quarterback they have.
Yeah.
If you can't beat out Brady Cook and Bailey Zappi, then maybe you probably shouldn't be an NFL quarterback. That's just me, though.
There you go. No pressure.
Tend to agree. Make sure you guys are checking out the All In Show on all of your favorite audio listening platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. We are on it all. Just search Clemson Football Live, and you'll be able to find all of our live shows in podcast format. Whether you're on a drive, whether you're working out, whatever the occasion, whether you're doing chores, and if you're not the YouTube, the live video content type of person, that's a great way to still consume the All In Show. And you obviously get to miss out on seeing our beautiful faces, but it is what it is. Things happen. I understand, and sometimes listening is a more practical method than watching us live. So make sure you guys are doing that as well. Make sure leave a 5-star review on any of those platforms. Obviously, it broadens our reach and allows us to continue to expand this audience and grow the show. So make sure you guys are doing that as well. Grayson, the ACC just dropped its media predictions for the 2026 college football season. Obviously, writers from all across the ACC come together, cast their votes, cast their ballots, so to speak, and they kind of compile this list into a poll, essentially, of sorts. Clemson was voted to finish 4th in the ACC, which is funny because they were actually second in first place of votes. So it's a little bit of an interesting dichotomy, it seems like, in terms of how some writers view Clemson versus others. Some feel like, hey, Clemson could right the ship a little bit this year and be one of the better teams in the ACC, and then others think, I don't think they're going to be very good at all, or at least they're going to be in the middle of the pack and not anywhere really close to competing for an ACC championship. What were your kind of thoughts? Obviously, the ACC, the media poll, preseason media polls aren't always accurate, of course, and they have a pretty spotty record. But when you look at just the overall list and Clemson's placement within it, does that feel about right with where we feel like this team is, or are they a little bit too high or a little bit too low? What are your kind of thoughts?
Yeah, if you go back and look, I think it dates back to 2023. The first place pick has tremendously crashed and burned. You had Clemson in 23 lose 4 games. I still don't know how Florida State got voted first in 2024. We could talk about crash and burn. That was an absolute dumpster fire of a season for Mike Norvell. And then Clemson said, hold my beer, we'll do the same thing. And did that in 2025. So 26, we'll see if Miami can hold serve and figure that out and get to the playoffs. I would expect that to be the case. Their top 4 that released earlier today matched mine. I had Miami at 1, followed by SMU, Louisville, and then I had Clemson 4th. And one of my goals this year, guys, at this event, it's unique, I think, this year, where the last several events of ACC kickoff that I've attended, Clemson's a comfortable first or second place vote for about 99% of the populace there.
Yep.
And there's no real debate. If you have Clemson outside of that, a lot of people usually think you're crazy. And especially last year, at least without the hindsight of what came after that. So I went and asked around just a lot of strangers and introduced myself and said, I work for the Clemson beat. I'd love to get 5 minutes of your time and just get your thoughts on where this program is from an outsider's perspective. And one of my questions was, where are you going to put Clemson in your order of finish? And a lot of answers ranged anywhere from 4th place to about 7th or 8th. So there is a wide range of people who think Clemson could at least marginally compete for the ACC title this year. And then there are those that think Clemson will be pretty average in the standings, at least in the conference landscape. So there's that at least. I agree with the finish of the ballot right there. I think Miami's going to be tremendous this year. They're probably going to break that curse. If Miami goes 7-6, something has gone horrifically wrong and probably is centered around Darian Mensah going down, or Mario Cristobal has a screw loose and doesn't kneel it out with the opposing team with no
That's
timeouts.
not out of the realm of possibility.
It's possible. It's very possible.
But if they do crash and burn, I mean, it might be time to actually talk about the ACC media curse at that point.
Oh yeah,
it's real.
You might have teams actively campaigning, but like, we got a couple injuries here, guys. We probably should.
We don't want to be one.
Sweeney had said it too. He joked, was like, we've been picked to finish first, I think, twice in the last 3 years, and we've been terrible. So there's that at least on that front for them. So I think for Clemson, it's a fair ranking. 4th is probably where you have it. I don't 5, 6, 7, that like tier. You think you go down to more of the Pittsburghs and you start to fall into the Lake Forests. And I just don't think Clemson will be that team again in 2026. But I also don't think they're going to be 1 or 2 like SMU or Miami. I think that there's just, you have more confidence in the quarterback. You have more confidence in the roster. Clemson's kind of in this weird middle ground where maybe they could surprise people, but they could also regress and be the same team, at least in terms of placement that they were last year. So it's been a very unique event in that sense, where the opinion for Clemson has been more varied than it has been really ever since I've at least attended these events.
Yeah. It feels strange just, when you look at obviously Clemson over the last, 11, 12, 13 plus years. Just you gotten used to being comfortably like a penciled in at worst, second in the league each and every year. And obviously most years you were picked to finish first. And now you're to the point where, there's not a ton of optimism, at least as far as, obviously from an outsider perspective, there's not a lot of people that feel like, okay, this team is a real contender. Like, it feels like there's a considerable gap. Obviously Miami is far and away should be, and I think they should be the favorite to win the conference. I mean, you just look at everything they have, coming back, everything they brought in, and just the continued success recruiting, talent acquisition that Miami has done under Mario Cristobal. It was surefire, easy pick. But, just the fact that Clemson is considered such a considerable tier below them is obviously, I think, for a lot of fans, still kind of tough to swallow. I mean, especially when you talk about the history of Miami in this conference, they haven't won the ACC yet, and they've only played in one ACC championship game. It really speaks to the importance of this season, I think, in a lot of ways for Clemson, for Dabo, this coaching staff to kind of reset the baseline, reset the expectations, and kind of stabilize things. Because, before, even, in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, those were not banner years by any means. But you were always felt like, okay, Clemson is good for 9 wins. They'll win 9 games. If, obviously 2023 was, you got the 9th in a bowl game, but you were like, okay, still, a top 25 team, still capable of winning the conference. You won the conference in 22 and 24. Now it feels like you're so far and away a little bit right now from the at least what's considered the top of the conference. Even if the placement necessarily isn't all that far, but obviously from a outsider perspective standpoint and a vibe standpoint, it feels different. So, like, how do you, I guess for the fans, how do you square that? I think that's something that a lot of Clemson fans are still trying to wrestle with a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to ask you, Joe, did either of you see that a little Stanford got a first place vote
Yeah,
in the
I
order
did.
finish?
I,
For the little guys, am I right?
somebody leak who voted the guy that voted Stanford number one. I want to know what the motivation was.
I really hope that it is someone that just in their heart believes that Stanford football is going to shock the world this year. Otherwise, we got to start taking votes away from these people.
Right. Like that's what I was going to say. Like at a certain point, like your voting criteria should be called into question, or at least your ability to vote going forward should be called into question if you're doing stuff like that.
The system should flag it automatically and be like, wait a minute, are you real? Are you a bot? Like what's going on here?
Is this AI? Is this
it should immediately flag it for a phone call. Like, hey, we're just good. I'm not saying you can't. I just need you to explain this to me.
It's like when I was in school and they
and
have
you
to like have
believe
you
it and make an argument. All right, cool.
Yeah, sure. Like, give me like Stanford's running back, man. That's Heisman caliber. And like, okay, I can see it's like when I was in school and they had us take the online test, but they turned the camera on to make sure that we weren't like doing something crazy.
The lockdown browser.
Got to start doing that with these votes. We got to be really careful. But to answer your question about just I think the fan base is in a I think the best example of where the fan base is at is just looking at the Twitter replies from the Clemson Media Day, where you're hearing all this stuff about where Clemson is at and, this is going to be great and that's going to be great. And just go to last year and it's, like, let's go. Hell yeah. We're on to the way to like, let's book the tickets to Miami now to the national championship. And this year it's a little more apprehensive of I'll believe it when I see it. And so I think there's a group of Clemson fans that want to see this team prove it again. And this poll is a reflection of that. I think at least from the media standpoint of Clemson is no longer going to get the benefit of the doubt. I think they lost that last year. And if Clemson had maybe gone 10-2 and it was sort of a repeat of 24 where they made the playoff but didn't really do much, I think things would be drastically different. But you start 1-3, you're 3-5. And it just never really looked good, even when they were on that win streak to close the year. You lose to a bad Penn State team that was dumping out the practice squad, essentially, in a really just cruddy bowl game. So I think a lot of people, myself included, are not just going to give Clemson a first or second place vote by virtue of who's going to be at the podium and Dabo Swinney and what he's done. It's different now. And I think there's a portion of the fan base that's had maybe a tough time wrestling with that because you get used to being at the top and it's intoxicating. And that's not to, it's like when Belichick started going 4-13, I'm scratching my head as a Pats fan. Like, this isn't real. Like what's happening here? This is a little different. So I think fans want to see Clemson win big games again. They want to see Clemson win at home again. I think what was really fascinating, guys, and not to ramble, but I do this deep dive every offseason where I just go back and watch all the Clemson games that I can get my hands on. And one of those was the 2022 NC State game day night game. And Chris Fowler on the broadcast says, these seniors have never experienced a home loss in their career. Now they're probably going to be Clemson players that have had double-digit home losses in their career. And that is pretty remarkable to say out loud, where that used to be a spot that was deemed impossible to win. And over the last several years, it's been pretty easy. So I think in a lot of areas, fans just want to see Clemson prove it again. And I think that's entirely fair. And that's reflected in the ranking where you got to go beat teams you should at home. You got to finish games on the road. So this is a team that needs a shot in the arm positively in the worst way. Do you get it this year? I think so. It's not the playoffs, but I think it's a step in the right direction. But I think fourth ultimately is a reflection of where the fan base and the media perceives them, but it's also the right spot for right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a billboard, if you will, for the steady decline that this program has been in for 4+ years now. And it's a very evident decline. And I think it was just like last year was just the highlight of how far this program has declined since, the greatest era in Clemson football history. We all lived through it. I mean, as a fan, being young, growing up, going to games and rooting for Clemson and all of that stuff, and then to witness the greatest era in Clemson football, it's kind of sobering to kind of come back down to quote unquote reality, if you will, and just kind of be right now, as painful as it is to say, just another team in the ACC. You're not thought of in the same breath as a Miami in the ACC or on a national stage. They're either SMU, Louisville, like all these teams have performed in recent years better than you have. And I think you're right. Clemson has lost the benefit of the doubt, and rightfully so. They should not receive any benefit of the doubt. The home losses are mind-boggling as a Clemson fan. Like, that used to be a scary place to go play. I don't think anybody's scared to walk into Clemson and play them right now. And that's sad to say, but that's the state of the program that we're in. And me and Jordan, we interact with fans a lot on this show. We do a segment at the end where we just chop it up with them and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And the sentiment is like, prove it. Like, Clemson fans are tired of hearing about it. They're tired of the history lessons of how much they've won. They want to see it happen again, and they're ready to see proof. And until then, I don't think you're going to get much buy-in from the fan base until they turn it around and start proving it on the field.
Absolutely, and that Syracuse game. I mean, just talking about the home losses, like that's one of the games that will make you that like I physically wanted to vomit.
The last game they won last year, by the way, just
very last game they won.
Steve Angeli, man, that was a showcase.
Hey, man,
from that cat.
It might be the greatest game he's ever played.
Yeah,
I mean,
good, and he's back, by the way. Yeah, so
he is back.
I mean, I don't know how effective he'll be in year. I don't know how good the roster will be around him. Definitely am not super high on Syracuse this year, but he was definitely a bright spot before the injury. So I didn't want to make this a Syracuse talk, but just it all illustrates, like, hey, I mean, that's one of the things that hurt me. That's hurt me the most about this is just obviously the lack of the gravitas and the luster that playing in Memorial Stadium used to have. It's like teams aren't scared of you anymore. I mean Syracuse walked into your house and did basically whatever they wanted for 3 quarters, and then the game was. And then by the time you gave any sort of resistance, the game was over. You've had. I mean, SMU came in. I was at that game, and basically had an offensive showcase for a lot of that game. Duke, 46 points. I want to say I believe it was 46 points. That's the first time Clemson has given up 40 plus points at home in God knows how long. I want to say 30 plus years. I mean, I cancan't think of. Oh well, no, it would have been 2013. It would have been Florida State. But beyond that,
2013 Florida State. I remember that game vividly. Let's not talk about that game.
Yeah, but still, it had been an extremely long time, and I think outside of that game, you had to go back to the 90s. So you probably that 57 to I want to say 57 to nothing probably was the last time. So like, it's been an extremely long time since Clemson has been just thoroughly outclassed in their home stadium, and multiple times over the last couple of years it's been the case. I mean, even in 2024 when Louisville came to town and basically ran the ball down your throat, like it's not even like you're losing like close games. You're having extremely ugly performances where you're just flat out just you taken out of the game for pretty early on. It's pretty frustrating, but I don't know. That's one thing you got to get back.
It's what excites me, and this is pending on if you can win that game in Cal in Berkeley on that Friday night, which I think that's the game we talk about that should scare Clemson fans the most. It's if you can win that one, LSU and Miami are sort of house money at that point. I truly believe if you can be 3-2 going into the bye, that back half of the schedule is very winnable. at least from just momentum that you could build. You start with the Charleston Southern. Virginia Tech is maybe the toughest opponent left. I don't buy into the South Carolina hype that has seemingly infected the rest of the national media. I'm a wait and see guy with the Gamecocks as I am with the Tigers here, covering it at home. But that Miami game, if Clemson's 3-1, that sort of I think that could feel like retro Clemson home game. If it's a 3-1 Clemson team that has a little bit of momentum and a Miami team that I would presume to be undefeated at that juncture of the season, with Darian Mensah having already come into your house and robbed you blind, putting up 46 points and coming back with he essentially it was him and the power of friendship with Duke, and now he's coming back with the Globetrotters or the Monstars of Miami, and so that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun.
Well, when you look at this Clemson schedule, that's the scary part. Like, I don't know if Clemson fans are paying attention to this, but like, there's a world in which Clemson starts off this season worse than they did last season.
It's possible.
Like you could
2
drop
and 3 could
LSU, Cal, and Miami in the first 5 weeks of the season, and be 2.
Got to win that Cal game.
Got to win the Cal game.
You'll get passes for LSU and Miami, and you could still be. Now, this is all hypothetical, of course, and we got to see it first. And you got to beat Georgia Southern and North Carolina. That wasn't as big of a certainty when you had your perceived weaker opponent coming to your building in Troy last year. That was saved by the rain, if you want to put it like that, or saved by the thunder. Did you two go to that one?
I did not. I didn't want to. I'm thankful I didn't go to that one because I almost did.
It was a long day.
Very, very. It was long for me, and I was sitting in the comfort of my own home. So
right.
Just
it was a miserable game, no doubt.
We're good
on
that.
Way worse in person.
It was something.
But if you guys, of course, Clemson is picked to finish 4th. That actually is in line with the betting odds right now. So if you feel like Clemson is going to outperform that and maybe potentially win the ACC, Clemson is currently plus 1,500 odds to win the ACC championship game on FanDuel. So if you guys are feeling a little lucky, feeling like this team has it, y'all make sure to go, hit up our folks over there on FanDuel. Of course, sponsors of this show. They're the ones that keep my lights on, figuratively, not literally. I do have another job outside of this, but they help our show tremendously, and not just ours, but of course everybody else within the Voice of College Football network. So y'all make sure to go support them as well because they support us. All right, Grayson, I want to kind of end your time with us. Just a quick thought on sort of the vibes around the program, as we get closer to fall camp. We talked a little about the quarterbacks, but, just kind of, your bird's eye view of things as we sit here. I believe fall camp officially kicks off next Thursday. So it's going to be it's here before we know it. When you look at just the overall, vibes of and the outlook of the roster, the coaching staff, a lot of new faces, both on the roster and in the staff. Is there a feeling like this team is going to right the ship? And when you compare it to the vibes from last season, when there were a lot of obviously there was a lot of fanfare about that team, but I guess maybe onlookers weren't always that impressed, and obviously it ended up showing on the field. When you look at this team and you look at the reset and sort of the mentality, because now you're a team that has to prove itself and you're not the team that's getting the benefit of the doubt. How do you think this team is prepared to handle that, especially with the daunting start to the year?
Yeah, it feels very different from last year, where it felt like every other question you fielded to players or coaches was this. It was sort of like you were addressing the elephant, the national championship sized expectations elephant in the room. And I think that, and I truly believe this, guys, is that it was a team that probably wasn't equipped to handle that type of hype heading into last year. And I think that buckled with that 55-yard fire drill field goal at Georgia Tech, and everything kind of fell apart from there. It feels different this year, and just talking to a few players at ACC kickoff and the extended conversations we've had with Dabo Swinney is that it's a team that feels a little refreshed, and it feels like a new era. If that doesn't sound insane, it's a new chapter where there isn't this lofty championship expectation for Clemson. I think a lot of people, including myself, would be surprised if they are one of the 12 teams in the college football playoff. I'd love it selfishly for work just to be able to go to cover one of those again. But I think that it feels very much like a rebuild with this Clemson team where, like we've talked about for the last hour, is getting back to earning that type of respect and having that benefit of the doubt where you instinctually, or it's like a habit where you put Clemson at 1 or 2 in your ACC ballot, that you just expect them to be in those big moments. I think this is a season where I think proof of progress will be very important. I think the players believe that they've found that, where last year sucked. And a lot of these players have been very honest about that, where Sammy Brown said he feels like the team got shocked a little bit, and that adversity, they weren't necessarily sure how to handle that. And he used that week between Georgia Tech and Syracuse as a reference where they had their tails in between their legs. And once things really got the spit hit the fan, let's say, didn't really know what to do with that. And so it's a team that I think it certainly doesn't have as much pressure on it to go out there and succeed. And there's a hunger from the spring where you have a lot of transfers that are coming from a Southern Miss or a Old Dominion, and you have an Elliott Washington that just had a similar season at Penn State where they had national championship expectations last year and they got their faces kicked into the dirt early in the year. So I think hunger and a necessary refresh in the building with a Chad Morris have come in and done wonders for this group. So I think you're going to see a little bit of a energy shift. And so when I think the players talk about a renewed energy in the building, it's not just the coach speak. I think that's legitimate. And so I think vibes are not high in the sense of, oh man, they're going to go win 11 games. But I think the sense of this feels like a fresh start for the program. And it's exciting for a lot of these players to be tasked with putting Clemson back to where fans feel like the program belongs. So I'm excited to see how it all unfolds. I'm not sure where this season's going to go. It's the most uncertain I've ever been covering this program. Yeah. But I think that's exciting for a lot of people. Is let's just see where this sucker goes, and we'll evaluate it when it's all said and done here in December or January.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you made a great point about this feeling like a new chapter. And, you know, and Dabo has described it that way in a lot of ways too. But I just, when you look at the sweeping changes, I think not necessarily in terms of, you know, coaching staff. I mean, you've certainly made a lot of changes to the staff, but I think from a process standpoint, this is the most drastic of an offseason as we've seen from Clemson. Of course, going to the portal, you know, bringing in double-digit guys, obviously unheard of. I mean, out of necessity for a lot of reasons, but also we were, you know, Clemson fans were like, oh man, I don't know if Dabo's ever really going to do it. You know, if push comes to shove, if we haven't seen it yet. But you saw the investment to go ahead and get guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And you know, obviously that is just a market shift from, you know, the way Clemson would have gone about things a couple of years ago. They would say, okay, no, we're going to stick to our guns. We're going to, you know, develop the guys that are left behind from the guys that departed, and we're going to get them ready to play or we won't. Now it's like, okay, no, we need to go get guys that can play. We need to go get guys that can help us right away. And that's largely what they did this offseason. But it's not even just the transfer portal class. It's also a player acquisition standpoint, NIL, obviously the investment there, and, you know, the emphasis on, you know, being competitive. I think in that market we've seen a considerable shift this offseason. And, you know, you saw it in the portal class, but you're also seeing it, you know, live within the 2027 recruiting class. You know, just you're winning some of the battles that, obviously in years past, you were like, okay, you expected Clemson to win a few of those. But in recent cycles, they were harder and harder to come by because you just weren't as competitive as maybe some of your peers, and especially, programs that you compete with year in and year out. And obviously the results on the field having a compounding effect on that. So I think Clemson kind of woke up from that aspect. So it feels like a new version of Clemson. It feels like, Clemson is kind of shedding the past a little bit in some way, despite what Dabo does on ACC, has done, when he's given his resume. His actions have shown that, okay, this version of Clemson is a little bit different than, years past. So it definitely feels like it's it's like a, kind of like with snakes when they, shed their skin and all of that. It's like, we're kind of pushing all of that to the side. It's kind of a different program. It may not be the same. It may not be as glamorous and as great as the, 2016 and 2018. But, this is a new, this is a new version of the program that's going to, carry us into the future, at least the foreseeable future. So, I think it's a very poignant way of, kind of describing, what this season is and what it represents for the program.
Yeah, I certainly believe that a good way to describe heading into this season is Clemson is going through a season of change, if you will. For as many history lessons as Dabo likes to give the fan base and the rest of the media, you do see the changes, right? And I think it's important to acknowledge how much change has happened in a short time in this program. Obviously, the most glaring is Chad Morris coming in as offensive coordinator. Not everybody was on board with that, me included, in the beginning. He has since kind of warmed me up to the idea with his interviews and the way that he talks about the offense and, maybe the renewed intensity that it seems that he's brought to the program. I think that been something that's been lacking in Clemson's program for quite some time. But I think another underrated one is the strength and conditioning change. Dennis Love coming in as the new head strength and conditioning coach, a guy that was set to, head off to the Minnesota Vikings and be their head strength and conditioning coach, decides to stay on knowing that he was going to eventually get the job. And not a shot at anybody, but I think things can become stale when there's not turnover and change. You don't want a ton of turnover, right? That's not a good thing either. But there's a balance, right? And I think one of the more underrated things this offseason has been the injection of Dennis Love in that strength and conditioning program, and hearing the players talk about some of the heightened intensity on that side of the house and how they are being pushed every single day. And I think that's something that maybe was lacking in last year's team, with all the talk of national championship and this team's going to the playoffs and, it's signed, sealed, delivered. This is Dabo's year. There was just a lack of fire, a lack of intensity, a lack of finishing on that team. And when they got smacked in the face, they were never able to get back up off the mat. And it does seem that there is a shift within the program in that. And I think that should give fans a little bit of hope. But again, very much a prove-it environment that Clemson is currently finds himself in as a program.
Yeah, it's different. And I think that it's exciting. And I think for some fans that it may be concerning that maybe this is one of those seasons where you find out if this is what you just are now. And if it's another 7-6 campaign, you kind of are what you are. And I remember Wade Wood has kind of bluntly told us after the GT game is we are who we are. And our record says we are a 1-2 football team. And that just rang more true as the season progressed, was this is a 1-3 football team, or this is a 3-5 football team. And of course you had this expectation looming over where the expectation was, okay, they'll at least be 7-1 at worst, and they'll be ranked. This year is Clemson's not going to be picked to win the big games at LSU or Miami. Cal might even be one of those weird odds maker games because of a Friday night. You have to travel across the country. I think they got a heck of a quarterback over out in Berkeley. NFL stock is up. He will change a franchise's destination for sure. So I'm curious to see what the energy will be like when we step out there. And I think that you had made a great point about there was just the intensity, just didn't see it as much. I think we saw that this spring a little bit where you get kicked in the face, and how do they respond is you bring in a fire hydrant in Chad Morris, and you just point in the direction of players and say, figure it out. And we're going to strain the heck out of you. And that's not just felt on the offensive side. It's been felt on the defensive side of the ball. I think Nolan Turner has been an underrated move this offseason. I think he's one that, of course, I think people roll their eyes at the idea of another former player getting on the staff and maybe hasn't proven it. The Nolan Turner stock is very high in the building, and that is a sure thing as a coach. There's a lot of people that believe he's a defensive coordinator in waiting at some point.
He was so obvious. Even as a player, it was so obvious he would be a great coach. I don't want to crown him yet, but there's just a little bit of buzz around that guy for sure. Yeah, that he's not like your other so-called player additions to the staff where people are just, again, Dabo, like, what are we doing here? Like, let's go outside the box a little bit. Not many people could say they've picked off Tom Brady and fooled him in coverage a little bit. Nolan Turner's one of those people.
There you go. That's very true.
Not that that's the requirement, but it doesn't hurt to have that on your resume.
It does.
It's a cool story to be able to tell, though. I mean,
I for one would love to hear him tell this story when we get the opportunity to talk to him.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That'll have to for sure be a question you ask him one of these days.
I have to. It's got to be something.
All right, Grayson, thank you so much, man, for joining us. Don't want to hold you too much longer. Of course, at the end of every show, we kind of take questions from the comment section. I starred one or two specifically for you before you get on out of here.
Sure.
Arthur, as a fellow Celtics fan, wanted to get your thoughts on the Jaylen Brown trade and all
here we
that.
go.
We're starting strong, Arthur. So I want to tell Arthur the story of how I discovered the Jaylen Brown trade had happened, because it happened kind of like in late afternoon, early evening. To kind of set a precedent, I've been helping my parents move up to Clemson for a good part of the summer. So I've been back and forth from here to Charleston. Some days you just need to clock out and take a little bit of a nap. And I wake up to my brother shaking me. It's like, they traded Jaylen Brown. And I was like, okay, like where? Philadelphia. And I thought I was in either a nightmare or I was in hell, because that is just not the thing you want to hear is Philadelphia 76ers. And to make it matters worse is you add LeBron to the mix. So I'm curious to see how it all work. I trust the Jason Tatum vision and the number one option that he'll present for the Celtics, where he's kind of free from this looming drama with Jaylen Brown that has always seemed to follow this duo, even when they won a title.
Dynamic, yeah.
It was interesting to hear Jason Tatum a few days ago say that I don't really love a know-it-all, which is kind of what people have been saying about Jaylen Brown. So curious as to what the dynamic was at the end there, but
that's that Cal snootiness, that is
just stuck up. I don't know.
It never really felt like those two worked honestly together.
It was they won a title. I mean, it worked to a
degree. They coexisted, and they were.
I think it was a struggle for much of their time together.
Yeah, regardless, I had Giannis dreams, and now I have Paul George on my team, so I'm not feeling the best.
Oh man,
I don't know. Who knows? And Paul George kind of turned back the clock a little bit for a couple of games in the playoffs with some of that.
Have y'all seen the meme where it's the little kid at Five Guys, and it's he wanted the Five Guys money but doesn't have, or he wanted Five Guys but doesn't have Five Guys money? It's just peanuts. It is, champ. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Peanuts. It is, champ. I feel like that's a good way to. I might have to retitle this live. That just feels like a very,
shout out to
very
Peanut.
poetic title with everything that we talked about. But Grayson, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's always great to have you on. Glad to get you back finally. Definitely don't expect this to be the last time I hit you up. But it's great to have you, and we appreciate you dedicating your time. It's always great to have you on. Tell the people where they can find your stuff. I mean, I tried to lay it out at the beginning when we brought you on, but let the folks know where they can find you. Of course, your stuff on Tigernet, but obviously social media as well.
Yeah, right now at tigernet.com, I want to give David some shout outs here. The series he's been doing, we've sort of tackled the preview from two different angles. He's been doing the position by position previews, and I'm right now currently, it releases tomorrow, the first part of our schedule preview with LSU, where I lay out the case why Clemson can win and why whatever team they're facing can win. So you'll see that with Clemson. It'll be every team except Georgia Southern and Charleston Southern, just for the sake of, I be a little ridiculous because Georgia Southern's going to be terrible this year. Yeah. But just finished up North Carolina earlier today. We'll be getting into Cal, Miami. It's an interesting year for the Tigers. And then, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Gray_man21 if you want to see my Clemson musings, a little rage about Jaylen Brown trades, or sometimes I'm a huge nerd, guys. I sometimes post movie reviews that nobody cares for. But if you're interested in that, feel free to give me a follow on Twitter. But certainly check us out on tigernet.com and our YouTube page where David and I co-host the Orange Crush podcast. We're really looking forward to some of the episodes we're going to be dropping soon with fall camp approaching. We got a fun guest that I'm currently booking. So be on the lookout for stuff like that. And thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you. Definitely got to link up sometime this season.
Yes.
Especially with got to get the whole group chat together. I mean, it was overdue. I missed y'all at LSU last year, so I got to make up for it.
You might have been the missing piece for a win there. I got to say.
So it was Jordan's fault. Got it.
It was.
Probably duly noted.
Sweeney said it that night at like 2 a.m. It was all his fault.
It got Jordan.
Jordan, man. All right, man. I won't hold you any longer. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, Grayson.
Thank you, guys.
Grayson Mann, everybody. Thank you one more time while he's not here. Y'all make sure to go check him out. Obviously, does all that stuff on Tigernet. Co-host of the Orange Crush podcast. A fantastic listen.
Great.
Those guys are him and David, two of the best in the business, chopping it up about Clemson football and everything that's going on around the program. So y'all go support him as well. All right, TPC, I think that's it for the show. Of course, we're going to take some questions from the comment section before we get on out of here. And yeah, let me know what you guys are wanting to know.
Do it, man. That was a great interview. Shout out to Grayson for coming on. That was always fun. Couple back-to-back epic guests that we've had. So
yeah, absolutely, and won't be the last.
Nope, I'm gonna keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling. Got fall camp coming up next week. We still got to do our season preview. Still a ton of content to get out there before the start.
All right, let's see what you guys are talking about. John says it's a fair opinion that some have that Garrett Riley proved he was more lost than confident without Sonny Dykes in the office next door, so to speak. Yeah, I think that's something that was pointed out. I would say when he was hired, but I feel like I don't think anybody really, barring a few, were really like holding that with a ton of weight. I know I didn't.
No, I didn't at all.
Brought on. It was a small lingering question. It's like, okay, he's removing himself for the first time in a long time, in a while, from the guy that has made him helped him become as successful as he was at TCU. And obviously the mastermind and kind of the progenitor of that offense. So, you take him out of that ecosystem and place him, especially since he only got to bring like one support staffer with him and trying to implement that scheme. How is that going to work? And I think many of us just assumed, it's going to be seamless and things are going to be easy. And obviously 2023 was certainly not that. But we were willing to say, okay, personnel issues, which was a very valid excuse. I mean, especially with injuries and things of that nature in that year. But I think, just as we got more and more games under the belt, 2024, was just, a lot of fun moments in that season. Like I don't want to frame that year as like it was all bad offensively, because they certainly weren't. They were top 25, top 30 offense in 2024, statistically speaking. But when it came to the big games, when it came time to score points against teams that were, marginally as competitive as you, mostly wasn't great. Georgia, obviously a 34-3 shellacking. Louisville came into your house. You only scored 14 points, and defensively you were a mess. And obviously, you dropped the South Carolina game. You put up over 400 yards of offense and score 14 points, and lose on the last drive. I mean, that it's not a ringing endorsement of how effective that offense actually was. And really, it took Kay Klubnik playing out of his mind to put up 24 against Texas in the playoff game. So, it largely against the best teams you played, it wasn't great. And it seemed like Garrett was not able to scale the offense up to the caliber of talent. I mean, it worked great against the NC States and the Appalachian States that year, but it was just you weren't able to get that to translate into the bigger games. And obviously beyond that, we've talked about it before. Garrett just didn't have the presence, I think, in the offensive room. He didn't have the same level of presence with the offense that, especially compared to a Chad Morris, just didn't command the room the way that, other offensive coordinators of the past have. And you don't always have to have that. But I think a team that, especially when you consider a team, the 2025 team that needed structure and direction and a strong sense of, keeping things together even when things weren't going well, he just wasn't able to provide that. And I think ultimately what we were talking about with Grayson, with the changes with the intensity and things like that, all of that to say is that you didn't really have adults in the room in previous years. And Garrett Riley didn't feel like he was the adult in the room. He didn't feel like he was the leader of the offense. He just felt like he was a part of the overall offensive system. And it was his offense. Like that's the thing that I always get frustrated with, is like, there are people that still believe that, Dabo, like, that wasn't Garrett Riley's offense. No, that was 100% Garrett Riley's offense.
For sure.
Schematically identical to what he ran at LSU. Save for a couple of changes in the 2023 season when there were personnel limitations and they kind of went back to things that they were used to. Like that, all the rest of that was Garrett Riley's offense. Those were all air raid principles. It was all his run scheme.
Didn't work.
All things that he did at TCU.
Yeah.
It just he wasn't, for a number of reasons, it just didn't work. And so that's the thing that was so frustrating. Is like, no, I mean, if we had that cop out of Dabo he's just meddling with the offense and he's not being allowed to run his actual scheme. Like, if that was true, like we like those things, like we'd be able to rationalize that in our head and be like, okay, well, clearly he's going to go tear it up somewhere else and he's going to be great. And that would it just, we have a head coach that can't seize control of the offense. Like I've never been able to get down with that, and because it's
I mean that's a popular comment. That's a popular excuse across the Clemson fan base. I've never really bought into it. I don't think you bring in a guy to quote unquote change the offense and then not let him change the offense. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just didn't work out with Garrett Riley. I think most people thought it would work, us included, and it was just an epic failure. And I think there were probably a lot of mitigating factors as to why that happened. I don't think it's all on him. I don't think he's, just a terrible coach. Maybe he was not ready for that opportunity. I don't know. I don't think he quite commanded the room in the way that it needed to be. And I think that's a stark contrast of what you see with Chad Morris now, right? Like he walks in and he's challenging everybody from the players to the coaches. And there's a very much hey, this is the expectation, and you better meet it, right? I never quite got that vibe from Garrett Riley.
Yeah, me neither. And like
he's a younger guy with far less experience, right? Like Chad Morris has been a head coach in college football at a couple different stops at this point, right? So like there's a difference in that. So it's not all like I'm not just sitting here like trashing Garrett Riley. I think he's still got potential as a college football coach. Like I think he goes on and does some other great things in college football. It just didn't work out at Clemson.
Yeah,
and that's okay. That doesn't mean his career is over. Doesn't mean he's done coaching football.
No,
just didn't work here.
Yeah, I mean he's at Missouri right now as in an analyst role. Give him some time to figure out where his next stop is.
He'll be just fine. He'll get
another opportunity.
Another opportunity somewhere.
And honestly, I don't want to belabor the point any longer, but like, to your point, it's like if Dabo was, if the whole point was to change the offense, but he didn't actually ever intend on changing the offense. He could have hired Chad Morris in 2023.
That was his whole reason for getting rid of Brandon Streeter. Like he came out and said that. He's like, we needed to change the offense, and I didn't think Brandon Streeter was the guy to do that.
Yeah, and
even said that.
And even if he felt like Brandon Streeter wasn't running the offense, the Clemson, quote unquote Clemson offense well enough, Chad Morris was an analyst on Clemson.
Yeah, staff. He could have went and got him.
He could have just said, okay, you want to be. He could have gotten him sooner. Like if the whole point was just to be the old Clemson offense, like that. Yeah, I don't know. That was. I've never been able to get around that.
No.
Mr. Two Times says, do you guys think that LSU is looking past us? I think it might come back to bite them. Seems like they're more worried about Ole Miss in their Week 3 matchup than us. Very odd. Jordan, TPC thoughts. I mean, I don't want to say that LSU as a program is looking past Clemson. I haven't gotten that vibe. I think they're very much taking this game seriously. I mean, I think one thing that I feel like some fans fans will conflate is like they'll see like the betting market and obviously the preview season, and obviously interacting with the fans is always I feel like is always the biggest influencer of how people perceive a program's like attitude towards them. Like if the fans seem to be looking past Clemson, that means that must be the team itself and the program itself is looking past. I don't think LSU is looking past Clemson at all. I mean, I'm Lane Kiffin. For all his flaws, I've never seen him as a coach that like overlooks opponents. Like he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that many type of games in his career where he overlooks an opponent. Even games where they've been upset. Like I think didn't Florida beat them last year or something like that? Like those things. Like
also there's the dynamic there of Dabo Swinney and Lane Kiffin, right? Like,
I mean he's
taken opportunities throughout his career to take shots. on numerous occasions. So, no, I don't think that he will allow his team to not be focused when Clemson strolls into town. Plus, the environment alone. I mean, that place is going to be crazy.
Yeah, no.
I don't think the environment. I mean, game day, first game of the season. No, I don't see any chance where this LSU program is looking past Clemson. I think they're looking to embarrass Clemson is what they're going to try to do. Will they be successful in that? Time will tell.
But we'll see.
They are looking to embarrass Clemson. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah. No, I always get the opposite feel when teams play Clemson. Like they are, and it's a little bit different because Clemson hasn't been in quite this level of an underdog situation in a while. But like I've never gotten the impression that when they've played teams that like, oh man, they're just they're really just not taking Clemson seriously at all. In fact, the teams that played well against Clemson played well because they took Clemson very seriously. Yeah. Maybe too seriously, in a couple of instances, because in a couple of instances where Clemson wasn't very good. So I expect LSU to come out and play a good game, and I expect them to pull out all the stops and do what they can to if they can blow out Clemson, they certainly will take that opportunity to do it because
they won't take their foot off the gas at any point in time.
Because Clemson still, from a brand perspective, still very much carries a lot of weight. Just from a optics standpoint, even with the recent slide, and Lane Kiffin is looking to start off his LSU tenure and on an extremely high note.
Yeah, he's going to want to make a statement.
Yeah,
for sure. He's got the opponent. He's got game day, night game at home. It sets up perfectly.
John, BYOG or sell, the LSU game is likely going to be a Kiffin versus Morris battle of the wits. Who can take the most advantage of each defense with many new faces? I'll buy that. And week one games are always they're always interesting because obviously last year's opener was very much a slog of a defensive game, and I don't even think it was necessarily because the defenses were that great, because they didn't prove to be that great later in the year. It really was. The offenses were still feeling each other out, and just trying to get comfortable. Had a lot of guys in new positions, a lot of new faces. It's always tough to the offense is really never as up to speed as the defense. A lot of times, obviously there are varying circumstances and things change, and when you look from a example by example case, but overall defenses tend to play better in in openers than offenses do. So it really is going to be about who can take the most advantage of and kind of get the most licks in, I think, from an offensive standpoint. And obviously the name of the game is scoring points, so it kind of goes without saying, but I really do feel like it's going to be more about which offenses are come to play versus which defenses in this game. So I'll buy that.
I agree. I'll definitely buy that. I think it is going to be about largely the offensive coordinators and their ability to produce points.
Dave says, I hope Green, I think he's referring to Byron Green, gets blocked.
Yeah, that's going to be a tall task for that offensive line, that newly constructed offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. It's not going to be fun seeing him on the other side.
Yeah,
I'm not looking forward to that. I think that was a huge loss for Clemson. It was unfortunate, but it is what it is now. He's a part of the enemy. But I wish him the best the rest of the season, just not in week one. I hope he gets 0 tackles in week one.
John asked this to Phylon even starting. I from everything I've gathered is he's either a starter or like co-starter. Like he may not play the first snap, but he'll play starting level snaps.
Yeah.
Like a
part of a rotation in there.
Yeah, that he'll be one of the first. He'll be the first probably off the bench if he's not a starter.
Yeah.
They have a very. I mean, LSU's defensive tackle room is going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shock me necessarily. And I think down the line he could work his way and be a true starter. But I definitely expect him to play a ton in the opener. Whether or not he plays the first snap, I don't think it matters that much, especially at a position that you rotate as much as defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anderson asks, is Seth a lock to commit to Clemson? Assuming he's talking about 4-star safety Seth Williams, set to make his announcement, I believe, on the 31st. As it stands right now, it's anybody's guess. This has been a legitimate, back and forth as far as kind of his feelings right now. If you want my pure shot in the dark guess, I think he's ultimately going to pick Georgia. But that's not he's notified the staff and notified both staffs and he's made a decision. It's just kind of a gut feeling right now. I haven't felt I felt like Clemson, it could flip Clemson's way, but I just feel like the back and forth at this point in the juncture and with the delays and him having already previously committed to Clemson, it feels like those two things. Yeah, it's not often you get a guy that decommits and then recommits into the class that doesn't happen that often, even though he really does hold Clemson in high regard. I think I feel like Georgia will be the pick, but that's a gut feeling right now.
I think I agree. I think it's close. I mean, I think it's as close as it can get, but I think Georgia will win out. Some of the recent commitments there have kind of, pushed me in that direction too, or the lack of their commitments there.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
That was, I think you would have felt better had that not been the case. But again, I think he ultimately picks Georgia, unfortunately.
Yeah. Good. It is legit.
Clemson's fine. I mean, they already have 2 in the class, so
yeah,
we're not in a bad spot.
No,
I don't think they'll go after anybody else.
I don't think
they plan on it. I think they either get him and they take 3, or they don't get him and they stay with the 2 that they already have.
Yeah, I'm with you. But again, it's this recruitment has flip flops so many different times.
Yeah,
it really is anybody's guess. So none of this is
all of this is good about it because he was committed and then decommitted and the back and forth with Georgia. I don't have a great feeling.
Yeah. Let's see. Leo asks, what do you guys think of the new safety duo and Jerome Carter and Cody Myrick? I am extremely high on both of them. I really like how they fit in Tom Allen's defense. Jerome is the rangy safety that is going to be great in coverage and is really going to be able to command the back end of the defense and be sort of that quarterback on the field in some ways. Obviously was tied for, I believe, 2nd in the country in interceptions with Ricardo Jones. So you replaced one guy with 6 picks with another guy with 6 picks, but it also has played a lot of football and I think from a trait standpoint, from a physical profile standpoint, fits more of what Tom Allen likes in the safeties. He likes them to be rangy and tall and long, and that Jerome is certainly that. And I think he's going to be he's going to give you a lot on the back end and be able to make plays as well. So really like him, and of course I think Corey Myrick is. I think the potential with him is extremely high. Heavy hitter, loves to play downhill.
Not kind of safety, dude.
Yeah,
My kind of safety.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see him in the box, a few times per game. Just making plays in the backfield, or you send him on a safety blitz, or you ask him to cover a tight end or something like that, or whatever you ask him to do. I think he's pretty capable of doing it. But I think these are two potential all-conference type of players. I think Corey Myrick was a all-conference first team, all ACC first team preseason selection. So it tells you what even writers and media members think about him. Coming from Southern Miss. So I think this safety duo. I think Miles better than the what you trotted out there last year. Just from an experience standpoint and from a fit and I think football IQ standpoint, because that was certainly lacking last year, and consistency. So Isaac says, did y'all talk about the quarterback recruit for 2028, referring to Trace Hawkins? Yes, we did when Grayson was on. So check us out, check out the rewatch. We went in depth, not too in depth, but we definitely hit on that and discussed the quarterback situation there and how we feel about that. Let's see. Tiger Tom says, can you guys give a basic explanation of, under the new rules, how the ACC goes to the playoffs? How's the playoff team determined with the different number of games played? Well, nothing really changes from a playoff standpoint. Really, the more interesting thing is the ACC tiebreakers scenarios with the different number of conference games.
Right.
But from a playoff standpoint, it's still a matter of winning your conference. And I think I don't know if the committee will, when it comes to at-large bids, will take number of conference games played into account if they're comparing two ACC teams, two at-large ACC teams, which I'm not really seriously considering at this point of being a possibility. So like, I don't know, we'll see. But the changes with the ACC aren't really going to affect the playoff committee that much and playoff selection, because it's still going to be, still got to win your conference to feel comfortable, getting a spot. And then, of course, as far as at-large bids are concerned, it's about your college football playoff ranking and obviously how teams are around you and where they fit around you. So. I think that's the really the only thing to consider there.
Yeah, and I mean the tiebreaker rankings. Obviously, they changed this year, and they announced those at ACC Media Days, and it's obviously head-to-head is king for the tiebreaker, and then second they're going with that analytics company, Sports Source, same analytics company that the college football playoff uses. So the success ranking there within that analytic company, whatever it is. And then if it's still tied after those two things, the commissioner has a draw. So very basic explanation of this crazy world we live in, where some teams are playing 9, some teams are playing 8. There's scenarios where you could have 3-way ties. Like this is going to happen in the near future. I think. I mean, the ACC has backed themselves into a corner with this scheduling mess that they've gotten themselves into. I don't love the idea of relying on an analytics company to be choosing who's going to the ACC championship game and who's not. But here we are. Here we are. It's the most ACC thing ever. No other conference has these issues, dude.
No.
It's just us. It's always just us.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. We're just so poorly ran. That's part of our problem. It's why we have the media rights deal that we have right now.
Yeah. Just doing things that have never been done
before. Who the heck in the world of TV signs a 10-year media rights deal that locks you into a price?
Yeah.
Only the ACC would do that.
Yeah.
Just like only the ACC would have teams playing different number of conference games. Just like a criteria for going to the playoff, only in the ACC would it be the commissioner gets a draw. What?
Yeah.
What?
It's comical reading the.
So everybody got in a room and they were like, "What do we do if that don't work?"
Yeah.
I know the commissioner will draw. Like, what are we drawing out of a hat? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What is happening? What does this draw consist of?
They're drawing from somewhere.
Jesus, dude.
Probably a place that it's not as family friendly to say.
Yeah, where they get all their ideas.
Yeah.
Where they get all their ideas.
Katie says Polo Anderson in reference to the safety room. Yes, very extremely high on him. Definitely expect to see him on the field this year. Yeah, that was a no-brainer of a take. You know, we were screaming it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
And was extremely happy when they finally pulled the trigger. And he wanted to be like Clemson. Like if Clemson offered, that was going to be the pick. And it's like you got to get guys like that in your state. And
absolutely,
very, very glad that they did. He's going to be a ball player for you. Let's see. Yeah, John says, did you see the ESPN Insights post that per ESPN Analytics, every single SEC team makes their top 20 for strength of schedule? Absurd, trying to get 6 teams into the college football playoff. Hey, man.
That's not surprising. That's not surprising at all.
Yeah, no, they're preloading.
Every SEC team makes their top 20 in strength of schedule. That's epic, dude. That's wow. Every team?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on.
If every team is highly ranked, highly rated,
that's true. Yeah, it just boosts the other ones. I see what they did there. That's clever. That's good.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I don't know how. I mean, I don't even know how you can square that with the SEC not even being the best conference the last 3 years. Like
yeah, but all they did during their media day was talk about strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing they can talk about right now because they can't win a national championship anymore.
Yeah.
They keep losing to the Big Ten. And they don't want to talk about that, so they just talk about strength of schedule and how unfairly they're treated due to their strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Because clearly their strength of schedule is way worse than anybody else's. Like it's so hard. It's just harder, okay? You should grade them on a scale because it's harder. Okay.
It's so
like the new grading criteria is nowadays. Like an A starts at like what? I don't know, 85 now, whatever craziness.
Yeah.
So they grade on a scale.
They grade on a curve. It feels like my thermodynamics exams in college. Like they just hey, you get a 70. That's basically an A.
That's basically an A. We're grading on a curve here, okay?
Yeah.
Don't pay attention to the number.
It's like I mean like that's the
you lose to another SEC team, it doesn't count as a loss.
Yeah.
It's just a hard game to play. That's just common knowledge. I don't know why the rest of college football doesn't agree.
I don't know. It doesn't
what
make
do you
any
make
sense.
of all their rhetoric heading out of or in SEC media days of we'll just break off and make our own thing. Like really? We're gonna go with I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
Take my ball and go home.
I'm gonna take my ball and go home because y'all don't respect our strength of schedule.
Yeah,
bro. As much as I clown the ACC, and they deserve to be clowned, SEC is becoming a bunch of crybabies, dude. Stop crying and just go win a national championship. Like, stop crying, dude. Just stop crying. Nobody cares. Just go win the game. Your strength of schedule don't matter when it gets to the playoffs. Miami's strength of schedule was probably trash last year. They went all the way to the national championship. Like, just go win the games, dude. You won't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Or just stop crying.
I'm going
to take my ball and go home routine. Like, cut it out, man. Stop.
It's so annoying, and other people have made this, have pointed this out too, because just for years, when the SEC was winning national championships and they were the clear best conference, it was like, oh, it's because our teams, they play the toughest schedule. They run through the gauntlet every single year. Right. That's why our teams are winning.
They're battle tested.
They're battle tested. And then when the Big Ten is now going on a run of its own and doing the same thing, it's like, oh no, it's because they play nobody. Like Indiana,
it's because they play easy teams.
Yeah, Indiana went 16-0 against easy teams.
And we're
did you watch what they did to Alabama,
bro? That's what I'm saying. Like, there just wasn't anybody that was going to beat Indiana last year. It just wasn't going to happen. It was their year. It was kind of like watching, LSU in 2019. It was just like it was very clear that they were going to win the national championship that year. Right?
2019 LSU wasn't great because they played in the SEC.
No, they were just great. It wouldn't have mattered if they were in the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC. Like, they would have won regardless of where they played. They got to stop this stuff, man. Like, the goalpost moving, like, before you used to win all the national championships, like you said, because we played the toughest conference and we're battle tested. Now we can't win a national championship because we play a tough schedule and we're all beat up and nobody respects our strength of schedule. Like, all right, dude, whatever you say, Greg, you're right. Just take your ball and go home. Just create your own little league over there.
Very, very, very annoying. But that's the narrative change. Like, they're the narrative champions of the world.
They can spin it, dude. They can spin it.
Doing pirouettes. It really is impressive. All right. Let's do a couple more. Leah says, how do you guys think the quarterback competition will go, and what do you like about both quarterbacks? Well, I think the first part of your question has two parts. So this is like a one, and it is like the tests and the quizzes in school. Like your teacher's like, all right, this quiz is only 10 questions, and then she plops it on your table, and you've got the first question has like three parts to it. It's like A, B, C, and D, and then the next, like that's what this feels like. So when it comes to the quarterback position, competition, heading into the first game of the season, I have a different answer for that than I do for the ongoing season-long quarterback competition.
Yeah.
So I do think Chris Rivazino will be your starting quarterback in week 1. I don't necessarily think he'll be your starting quarterback by the end of the season. Now, I hope I'm wrong about that. For good reasons. I hope he's I'm behind. I'm behind CV.
That probably means Clemson had a pretty successful season.
Yeah, right? I'm behind CV until he's not the guy anymore.
Right.
But
which is how it should be. Like, that's not like, I know some people are like, oh, that's taking a shot at CV. No, it's not. Like, that's how it should be for every player on the team. Like, I'm with whoever the starter is until it's clear that they're not that anymore. And then this is sports. It's a meritocracy, right? Like, you earn your spot. And if you don't, somebody else is going to come in and take it. That's just how it is. So I agree. Yeah, I think Chris Vizina runs out there first. No doubt about it. But with Tate, like, you got to love the athleticism that comes with it, right? Obviously, he's got a cannon of an arm, but he's also athletic. He can move around. Not that I'm not saying CV's a statue. He's not. But if you're comparing the two athletically, obviously Tate's going to get the nod.
Yeah.
So I think that gives him a little bit of an edge going forward in the quarterback battle. CV's probably got a little bit of an edge just being in college longer and being able to pick up offenses probably a little quicker than Tate. Not always the case, but you figure you've been around the block a few times. So and he's learned a new offense before. So and then another knock personally for me against Tate is he didn't get to play his senior season, right?
Yeah.
Due to injury. So there is that of that lost time, that lost experience that he would have had. But I mean, hearing all the stuff coming out and hearing Grayson talk about it earlier, obviously it's not going to be a surprise at some point in time this season for Tate to kind of supplant CV as the starter.
Yeah. And, into not defense, but, to CV's credit, I do think that he has ingratiated himself with this team. I do think the guys are behind CV. Like it's very much different than when DJ Uyunglele was coming into the 2023 season with K Klubnik or really the 2022 season and K Klubnik coming in and nipping at his heels. There was a very much different vibe, I think, with the team. You had your guys that they were behind DJ, but like there wasn't that level. There wasn't the same level, I think, of confidence and belief that that he was going to figure it out and things were he was gonna be successful. Like it didn't. Those vibes weren't there. I just from the other guys on the roster. Like I don't think that's the case with CV. I think a lot of guys on the team love CV, not just as a person but as a player. So like I do think that's something that can't be discounted. They'll certainly go out and play for him. I think they're going to give their all for him. So he's going to be successful.
I think ultimately it's CV's job to lose, right?
Yeah.
I think if he goes out there and takes care of business and does what he needs to do on the field, he'll play all season and he'll be the starter. But he's going to have Tate right there pushing him the entire season. And if things start going sideways, it will not be a surprise because they'll call Tate's number. And with that said, I think even if CV plays the entire season, you're going to see Tate Reynolds. Whether that's packages that they put in for him or whether that's in, blowout time, whether it's Clemson getting blown out or them blowing somebody else out, you will see Tate. And I think the coaching staff made that pretty clear that you will see him early in this season. So maybe not necessarily as a starter, but he's going to get at least a little bit of playing time.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. All right, and last one, just a fun little thought experiment from Isaac. It says 2019 LSU versus 2018 Clemson, who wins? Yeah, I've heard that postured a lot on whether on social media and things like that. Two 15-0 teams in close proximity with each other, chronologically wise, and obviously in 2019, those Clemson and LSU faced off for the national championship. So there's that angle as well. It's a very fun thought experiment. I think a lot of non-partial observers would say, man, well, I mean, we saw 2019 LSU take care of Clemson and in the national championship. So what was different? What would be different? Like if things were a year earlier. I think obviously the
defense,
those of you that know anything about that 2018 team and especially compared to the 2019 team, have one of the best college football defensive lines ever.
Yes.
So like I think it definitely levels the playing field a good bit there. Obviously, both offenses were potent. 2019 LSU's historically so. So I mean, you still got to contend with that. And they had a Joe Moore winning offensive line, so that they not able they're nothing to scoff at on that front as well.
We also made some dumb mistakes in that game, like not running Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I mean the 2019 team should have been could have made
That
that
game should not have gone the
yeah.
way that it did. Like I'm not saying LSU shouldn't have won. I think they win anyway.
Yeah,
but it shouldn't have got away from Clemson in the way that it did. There was no reason for that.
Yeah, there were very tough moments in that game. The T. Higgins the T. Higgins offensive pass interference took a touchdown off the board. Yeah. Nolan Turner dropped a surefire pick six that would have flipped the game literally. Yeah. You obviously Trevor Lawrence did not play. Probably had the worst game of his career.
Definitely the worst game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not playing well.
Yeah, just a couple
Tony
things
Elliott, I wanted to rip him out of the booth for just refusing to run the football. But yeah.
That was so like you couple that with, and then you pair, and you go back a year and look at that 2018 team and look at the talent on that squad. And when you look at 2019 LSU, in the games where they weren't blowing people out of the water, it was not coincidentally when they were playing the best defensive lines on their schedule. They only scored 23 points on Auburn. Auburn was I don't think people like remember that 2019 Auburn team because I think they lost like 4 games, but they had they had arguably the best defensive line in college football that year. Mm-hmm. They were phenomenal, and they held that LSU offense in check for a lot of that game because they were able to get pressure on Joe Burrow without sending a ton of extra guys. And that was the difference. Like that was when LSU was not playing at their best. It was when they were playing teams that could get that level of pressure without sending a bunch of guys. And obviously I think that Auburn game showed that pretty well. And I would take 2018 Clemson's defensive line over as good as that Auburn defensive line was. I'm still taking the power range.
Was better. That was quite possibly the best defensive line in college football for a season. And, everybody asks this question all the time. And it is a fun thought experiment. Obviously, I'm a little shaded towards the orange side of the house here. I would go 2018 Clemson. And every time this question is asked, it's for one reason and one reason only. I trust Clemson's defense to get more stops than I trust that 2019 LSU defense to stop Clemson's offense. I just think that defensive line would have been a huge problem for Joe Burrow and company. He would not have been able to sit back there like he did far too many times in that game and pick Clemson apart in the secondary. Yeah, that would have not happened.
No, it wouldn't have. And you'd be in a much better situation.
It would still be a shootout, I think. I mean, I think there would be a lot of points scored. I think it would be a very back and forth game. Unfortunately, in that national championship game, the 2019, and I'm not making excuses, but it seemed like all the pivotal moments went LSU's way. But I mean, it just felt like it was LSU's year that entire year, right? They're playing the championship in Louisiana, they're undefeated, but it just felt like their year the whole time. And every time there was a pivotal moment in that game, it was not going Clemson's way. You talk about the offensive pass interference, the drop pick six, the James Skowski getting ejected. Like it was just hit after hit after hit. And every time it seemed like there was going to be a shift in momentum, it just didn't go our way. So, and that's credit to LSU. They won fair and square. I ain't making excuses, but if you're asking me, I'm picking 2018 Clemson, just based solely off of that defensive line.
Yeah. I really think that's the equalizer in that game, in this hypothetical matchup. Is like I think that Clemson defensive line would change how defensively Clemson would have played things, because in that 2019 game, I mean, it was they had to leave guys on islands because they knew they weren't going to be able to get. I mean, and that defensive line, that 2019 defensive line just wasn't. I mean, they weren't terrible, but that was definitely one of Clemson's weaker defensive lines of the last. Might be the weakest Clemson defensive line of the last 10 years.
Well, I mean, it probably should have been. I mean, look what walked out the door.
They lost 3 first rounders and another
in a fourth round. 3
Yeah.
first round draft picks off of one defensive line. Like, how good do you think it was going to be?
Yeah. So
I still can't forget what Justin Jefferson did to Tanner Muse.
when he
bad.
Still think about that. Yeah, that juke was pretty rough. But that was the situation you were in. You had to leave, AJ Terrell and Darian Kendrick and all those and Tanner Muse, Nolan Turner. You had to leave your DBs on islands against the greatest group of pass catchers,
Justin Jefferson and
arguably in college football history. And
it just combination.
No, it was not.
The only way you were limiting that offense was getting pressure with your front four.
Yeah.
And that 2018 front four would have gotten pressure.
Yeah.
That was really the only. You mentioned it. That was LSU's only kind of kryptonite that season, was a front four defensive line that could get pressure on Burrow.
Yeah. And I mean, an underrated aspect is and we were talking about defensive backs. You didn't have Trayvon Mullen in 2019. You did in 2018, and he was the MVP, defensive MVP of the national championship game. So that's a second round pick at corner that you didn't have. And Darian Kendrick, credit to him, a guy that was playing his first year at defensive back after transitioning from wide receiver and worked his way as a starter. But that's not ideal. When you're going against that passing attack, you'd rather have a guy that's been playing the position for a while. So if you have Trayvon Mullen out there for more snaps than you do, Darian Kendrick, who didn't even play defensive back in 2018. I think that changes things as well. It just so much of that 2018 defense was more suitable to face the kind of offense that LSU was.
Yes.
So. Yeah, I definitely think that would be the great equalizer, and I would, being biased,
it'd be a fun game to watch, man.
Oh yeah, it would be
I'd pay to see it.
Hell of a game.
I'd pay to see it.
And I mean, we're talking about the defenses, but I think offensively, they were just Trevor Lawrence, obviously, if you got the 2018 version of Trevor Lawrence in the national championship game, that obviously things look different, but. You also had, T. Higgins and Justin Ross, who were both injured and playing injured in 2019. It was something that we don't talk about a lot, but both of them were very hobbled in that game when they weren't in 2018 against Bama. So, you have the 2018 version of those two playing. I think they make more plays, and they still made a good amount of them. But I think they certainly get off a little bit more because that LSU defense was not bad, but they were, they were gettable, and they showed plenty of flaws throughout the season. Even with a great freshman season from Derek Stingley, and I think Grant Delpit also won the Thorpe Award. So wasn't they had talented guys, but
for sure
collectively they weren't that great. So I think the LSU's defense would be the weakest unit in that game.
Yes,
between the two teams, if they were to face.
No, I still think LSU's got the more potent offense in that game.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that. So I think Clemson's got the best on defense. They got the best on offense. But I just think our offense would be able to do more against their defense than they would against that 2018, especially that pass rush. That'd be the equalizer. That'd be the difference maker. It just throws so many things off schedule. It changes the way that you have to call a game offensively. And that would have changed some things about it, I believe. But a game we'll never see. It'll never be played. So
Yeah. Sadly. Man, I mean, things are different, and you're talking about Clemson, 30-game win streak, and back-to-back national championships. How differently. I mean, obviously Dabo's legacy was cemented regardless, but man, it
it'd be so much different.
That would be legitimately talked about as one of the greatest runs in college football history.
Yeah.
I mean,
a back-to-back national championship. I mean, it would have changed Trevor Lawrence's, legacy at Clemson. Not that he's not of course he is. First 15-0 team. His legacy cemented too. But it would have changed a lot, man. Winning that game would have changed a whole lot.
He would be he would be considered Trevor Lawrence is already considered one of the better, one of the best quarterbacks of the 21st century. But if he won back-to-back national championships,
he'd be the GOAT.
He would be in like Vince Young, like the Tim Tebow. He would be in those conversations
because he's still not at Clemson like the undisputed greatest quarterback of all time.
No, he's not. He's not. He would be.
There's some people that think. Yeah, there's some people that think he is. There's some people that think Deshaun Watson is. There's people with different opinions. But I think winning that game, it probably would have been unanimous at that point.
Yeah.
I agree, Isaac Smith. It is Deshaun for me as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's very close, but
it is close, but it is Deshaun for me.
All right.
Partly because just like that 2016 national title, I don't know if anything, as a Clemson fan, if anything will top that moment for me.
Yeah.
Realizing that we just won the national title, that was a really cool moment. So
35 years in the
I don't know that any national championship that I ever watch, hopefully I get to watch another Clemson national championship in my lifetime. But even if I do, I don't think any of them could ever top that first one. That was crazy because I wouldn't have lied for the very first one. So,
Katie says Kyle Parker is my GOAT.
Kyle Parker.
I mean, I don't think there's an argument to be made that he's the greatest Clemson quarterback, but as far as athletes,
yeah, he points out the 20 homers and 20 touchdown passes in the same athlete.
Yeah, that still hasn't been done again.
If you're talking dual sport athlete, maybe
absolutely
for sure.
I mean,
just straight up quarterback,
no. But that's not to discount. I mean, Kyle Parker at his best was a good quarterback. He's a good college quarterback too. I mean, 2009 Kyle Parker. You go back and watch some of those games.
Boy, it was nice. It was nice.
You'll forget. I mean, it's he was there was a lot of hype about him, and heading into 2010 because of how good he was in 2000. Things had gone a little bit differently, and Dabo, cut ties with Billy Napier a little bit sooner. Kyle Parker's legacy from a football standpoint might be a little bit different.
It probably would have been different. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle could sling it, man. That was. I won't take Kyle Parker slander.
No.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us, y'all. We've hit the 2-hour mark plus.
Yep.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Obviously, had a great special guest tonight, and Grayson. One more shout out to him for thank you for giving us your time. Y'all make sure to go support Grayson over on Tigernet. He does great work, covering the football program, recruiting. Him and David Hood also have a podcast, the Orange Crush podcast. Y'all go listen to them. They're one of the best in the business, and just elite content, and that they're continuing to pump out over there. Tigernet's been doing it for decades at this point. And so y'all make sure to go support them as well because they are a fixture in the Clemson media space. TPC, any parting shots before we get on out of here?
No, man. Just shout out to all the people in here tonight. Don't forget to hit that like button. We appreciate each and every one of you for engaging with the show. Stay tuned, man. We got some more special guests coming. We got obviously our season preview coming where we'll break down game by game and go through Clemson's schedule and tell you what we think. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun next couple weeks. Obviously, fall camp starting next week. So, man, we're in a full drive right now. So pedal to the metal. The season is going to be here, and we'll be doing the LSU post game before we know it, Jordan. So can't wait for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, yeah, appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We will see you right back here next Tuesday at 8 p.m. for yet another edition of the All In Show.
Yes, we will. Yes, KD, and safe prayers and safe travels to the men's basketball team. They're heading up to Rome to play some exhibition games. So hey, we'll see kind of how they do with Brad Brownell and the squad. Good to see them in action. Their first look as we, because basketball season will be here before you know it.
It will.
Yes, it will. All right, y'all. That's going to do it for us. Until then, we'll see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. I'm Jordan Bowman. He's Tiger Paw Craven. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.